Welcome to
The Curiosity of
A Child.
It's only me behind the microphone at the moment, as Anton's not here. But he will be in your ears, do not worry, because we were very kindly invited to talk on our local BBC radio station about the podcast recently. So that's BBC Radio Guernsey, and they have given us permission to reproduce the interview here. So thank you very much to them. They asked us about the origin of the podcast, how we produce it, how we got into it, and Anton did so well, actually, in the big studio, so I'm very, very proud of him. So what follows is us talking to the BBC, so I hope you enjoy this. It's a bit different to what we normally do, but don't worry, we will be back soon with more episodes of The Curiosity of a Child. So, on with the interview.
Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? There's podcasts for everything now. I think you can find all sorts of weird and wonderful topics. My next guests have a great one. It's called The Curiosity of a Child, set up by father and son, Anton and Rick, just over 2 years ago already. And it's just gone from strength to strength. It discusses science and history and monsters and games. Also, you're uncovering local history as well and key figures here in Guernsey. I'm delighted to say that Rick and his son Anton join me in the studio now. Hiya, gents. So who came up with this idea? Whose idea was it in the first place?
I think it's a bit of both of us, really. I've always liked listening to podcasts, and Anton got into them as well. So we were kind of discussing, should we start our own podcast? And Anton was getting some homework from school, only a little bit at the time at Vovat. And it was kind of a way to sneak in maybe a little bit more education in there as well, in a fun way, and give me an excuse to learn what he's doing.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great way to kind of get involved kind of with what each other's learning. So how did you feel about it when you guys first had the idea of doing this podcast, Anton?
I was quite excited because I liked the idea, and it's a way to so I can learn a lot of things, like doing that, but in a fun way, and letting other people hear as well.
Have you got a particular area of kind of subjects that you like to learn about?
I really like World War II,
Okay.
mostly, and tanks and vehicles from World War II. But I like lots of other things as well.
Well, you live in the perfect place, don't you, to learn about the Second World War. So what's the reaction? What was the reaction like when he first said, right, we're disappearing off into the cupboard, we're going to go record a podcast? What was the reaction like?
I was a little bit confused why we're going into a cupboard at first, because I remember he made like a mini studio.
Yeah.
And I looked in and I was like, wait, so we're recording here?
Oh, I was just joking. I didn't realise you actually recorded in a cupboard.
Yeah, we do record in a cupboard with a bit of like sound insulating foam and stuff. So it's not the best studio, not like this. But I think we didn't really announce it when we first started. We quietly put out a few episodes. I followed my brother on Twitter with the account, and then he found us and listened. But I think the general reaction from people has been pretty positive.
So it's grown from strength to strength, and you've built up an audience over the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of, for anyone who hasn't listened to the podcast before, what can they expect if they put on one of your episodes?
Lots of different topics and different things. We've done like fairies to spices and turmeric and stuff, so they probably won't expect a particular thing. There are going to be lots and lots of surprises and different things in the episode.
So it's almost quite a general knowledge. So you're learning a bit about everything. Who comes up? Who does all the research? Is it all from you, Anton? Are you the brains and your dad's the psychic?
Kind of the other way around. I'm just there to... sometimes I'm starting to do my own segments a little bit more in the podcast, but usually my dad does most of it.
Oh, thank you.
And so, Rick, where do you get the ideas from for what you talk about?
Usually just when I'm, doing different things and an idea might pop into my head, something I've heard, something I've seen, then I'll note it down, think, okay, that could be an episode in the future. Then we've maybe got some running series, like one on spices, mainly so I could get Anton to actually taste the spice live and get his reaction.
Oh, wow.
And then we'll look at maybe some of the history and the science behind it. We just want to be a little bit holistic with when we're covering a topic. And then other ones will be maybe some local things like folklore or local people like William Lasher or Margaret Ann Neve. Or just anything that's taken our interest, really. Usually in science or history, a bit of storytelling, the main areas.
What I've got to ask, Anton, what have been trying the spices been like? What's been your favourite and what's been your least favourite so far?
I quite like cloves because that was it was used for like as like an almost toothpaste and to clean your teeth, and it was quite nice.
Okay.
That would probably be my favourite. Turmeric was my least favourite for like a taste, but I liked the history behind that one.
Now, turmeric's the yellow-coloured one, isn't it? That gets everywhere when I cook, and I can never clean it off. So it must have been an unusual taste when you tried it.
Yeah, it didn't taste it too much. I can't remember it properly, but it didn't taste it too much. But I liked the history behind it, like I said, and how it was used to dye clothes for monks and stuff to get that orange colour. Now,
how hard did you find the actual technical process of doing a podcast? Because doing radio, it's quite different in some ways to doing a podcast. You can do it with a lot less equipment, maybe. So how did you find that? Was that quite a barrier, or is this something that you've got a lot of experience with?
I guess it's a new experience, but I've always sort of been in the creative industry, so I'm used to kind of making things. But doing audio was new to me, and then we also like to add some sound effects and things. And I think we're semi-scripted because I need to have lots of notes of what we're talking about. So the editing process was new to me. But over the 2 years, particularly me, I make way less mistakes now. Anton was always good, but having to re-record things and then edit them out. So obviously different to like being live now, but it's more conversational. So it's a bit of a learning curve, but enjoyable.
And how long does an episode take from the idea to getting it put out onto the internet? How long does that process take?
I guess there might be a couple of weeks of planning, not solid, obviously, but there's going to be a few hours of research and reading, looking at different sources. Recordings usually about 40 minutes to an hour, I guess.
Yeah, so we have had longer ones, but that our episode time was about half an hour to 50 minutes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But we've had, I think our latest one was about 2 hours maybe of recording.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to cut it down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it must be a great way as well to spend time together as father and son. You're doing homework and working. You don't always get the time to spend that quality time, just the two of you. So how special has that been?
I think it's really good. And for me, recently I've been thinking about it with lots of people take photos of their children, or they might be filming a performance they've done at school, but you don't often actually capture their voice and their conversation and their way of thinking. So listening back to some of the earlier episodes, I actually find that so valuable. It's a real kind of little treasure trove of memories. And spending time with Anton, seeing him learn and grow, and I love it. It's great fun.
And what about you, Anton?
It's been quite nice because we do quite often spend time together anyway, but it's really nice like having a proper talk about something and learning new things, but not at school, but through my dad. It's really nice.
Nice, okay. Well, you've learned things like bees and chocolate, mummies and Nazi invasion. You mentioned William Lasher before. So maybe each of you, maybe we'll start with you, Anton. What's been your favourite subject to learn about on the podcast?
That's very hard. I quite like the E-numbers episode, and I learned that beaver anal glands were used as like raspberry flavouring on that one.
Wow! I've learned something new today. Oh my word. What about you, Rick?
Actually, that was our first Halloween episode, and I liked our second one on corpse medicine.
Right.
Because we did it in the kitchen, and I recreated the corpse medicine, obviously not with the real people. And yeah, we ate those live on air, kind of like mellified man, which is a man who was basically stored in honey for maybe 100 years and then eaten.
Oh my gosh.
So I just used a bit of pork or something, which I'd marinated in honey, and then we also did like human brain, which is minced meat, but just to try and recreate and really bring the history to life and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have so much fun doing the podcast. So anyone listening to this who maybe wants to go and find your back catalogue and have a listen to what you guys do, where can they find that?
Well, any kind of podcast platform. So if you've got Apple iPodcasts or Google Podcasts, just search for The Curiosity of a Child and we'll come up, or our website, thecuriosityofachild.com, or on Twitter, we're CuriChildPod. So anywhere there, they should be able to find us if they search online.
Wonderful. And is it onwards and upwards? What have you got next planned for the podcast?
I don't think we actually have a proper plan yet.
Early stages.
Yeah. Because we released another one fairly recently, I think. But I'll find something to do, because I think I might do a bigger segment this time. I'll try something.
It's going to be our Halloween special.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are going to do ghosts, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, well, there's a lot of ghost stories to tell from Guernsey and further afield as well. Anton and Rick LePetfin, thank you so much for telling us about your podcast, The Curiosity of a Child podcast. You can find it wherever you can get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything like that. Look forward to some spooky stories for Halloween.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being in the studio, and so did Anton. And it's a bit more impressive than the cupboard that we record in for the podcast. We have got our Halloween episodes coming up soon, so that's something to look forward to. We actually did an interview of our own last night with a guest, and we're going to record the second part of it in the coming weekend, hopefully. And it's a little bit different, like we always do for Halloween, a bit of fun, looking at some different topics. And if you can't wait for that, make sure you follow us on Twitter at CuriChildPod, or Instagram or Facebook, also CuriChildPod. Or visit our website, thecuriosityofachild.com, where you can find out all about the show, all the links and bits and pieces like that. So we will be back soon. Goodbye.
Viva anal glands.